Good afternoon and welcome in everyone to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. It's a rainy Tuesday here in the 501. It's a big for Arkansas Razorback men's basketball. Big game tonight, a bubble game for the Hogs as they fight for their postseason lives. But it's also a big day because news came down just a few minutes ago that class of 2025 five-star Nate Ament will take an official visit to Arkansas this weekend, March 8th. This is the weekend that Arkansas wraps up its regular season at home against Mississippi State. Another opportunity for Arkansas to improve its postseason resume. So that'll be a home game when Nate Ament is in. This was reported by On3 Sports, Jamie Shaw. They do a great job over there with recruiting. We've been telling you for a while that based on Calipari's movements, based on the fact that Nate Ament has continued to put Arkansas on he's in. First, it was top 11 schools, and he cut it down to 5. That obviously, I've had some reporting of where the NIL might be trying to get to in terms of what Nate Ament's camp wants to do. I've had a source going back to December that says Nate Ament is planning to come in to visit Arkansas when Arkansas is hosting a basketball game. And they were asking me at the time, we've talked about this so many times, what is the game date? Well, I never got that. And my source eventually said, well, I was told that he plans or wants to come for a game date, not that it was set in stone yet and what game date it was. So we even added that update the last time we were on talking about Nate Ament. But it turns out my source is right. Nate Ament will attend. I do have this confirmed. He plans to attend while he's in town, Arkansas's Saturday game against Mississippi State. Again, the regular season finale. It may be a game Arkansas must win to have a chance to get into the NCAA tournament. Right now, I think, and we're going to talk more tonight. I'm going to do a post game. This is a late start. I'm thinking about coming in at halftime actually, because the game starts at 9 and going from there. So I may come in at halftime. I may come in with 8 or 10 minutes left in the game, or I may just do a regular post game really, really late. Again, 9 o'clock Central Time tip off, Arkansas at Vanderbilt tonight. But Nate Ament is going to be in town. Arkansas looks like getting the last visit because the other 4 schools on his Final 5 list, that's Duke, Louisville, Kentucky, and Tennessee, he's already visited those schools. And so this is his final official visit unless he intends to change his Final 5. Now, he's got time to do that. He cut that list down a week or so ago. Time's really flying by right now, Nate Ament. And, he's going to make an announcement over during the McDonald's All-American game break. And I'm going to talk about the title I put on this was, is Arkansas in the lead now? Who's to say they're not? I'm going to talk about that. But April 1st, McDonald's All-American game, that's the target date for his announcement. So today's March 4th. By the time he visits Arkansas this weekend, he'll still have, 3 weeks or so to make a decision and figure this out. And again, the last time we were on talking about this, the timing of this suggested that these ideas that it's Duke or Louisville, I mean, it could play out that that's true. But if he's so certain about that right now, why not go ahead and commit? The spring signing period, he has to wait for that anyway. That starts in April, a week or so after he makes his announcement. And that usually runs about 5 weeks, that spring period signing gap of days there so that he can sign. So all that's kind of formality stuff. It's really about the decision. And so again, today the news came out, just going to repeat it. Nate Ament, national top 25 5-star, ranked number 3 in the country, I think. I think in most services it's no lower than 4, but he's at least third in at least 1. But the third ranked player in that class, it's a loaded class. He's a guy that's projected lottery pick in the 2026 draft, so a year from this upcoming 2025 draft in June. And we've talked so much about him. We're going to do that again today. We're going to kind of go back through the timeline of things in his Arkansas recruitment. But this is big news, even if his camp is trying to escalate NIL up to around somewhere $3 million. Who knows if it'll exceed that or come under that for certain. But Arkansas and John Calipari clearly haven't gotten the memo. If that is a problem for them, they haven't gotten the memo, and it may very well be that that's not a problem. John Tyson, who's, let's just call it, that's the sugar daddy. He's Arkansas basketball sugar daddy. He's Cal's sugar daddy. There's other boosters that chip in on this basketball NIL, but that's the main source of it. And they want to see Calipari succeed at Arkansas to the tune of having what he needs to win a national championship. And so if that's the case, We'll see about NIL, but I think that pot for Arkansas is going to have to grow, maybe beyond what was even planned in year one. Because if you throw that kind of coin at one player, and you're probably at this point looking at expanding your roster to 10 or 11 instead of 9. I don't see any other way around that unless you just want to double down on what's been a problem for Arkansas and could be, when we look back on it, maybe the reason why Arkansas doesn't get to an NCAA tournament this year. So I think you got to expand that, which means more NIL money. So maybe they're growing that pot, and maybe that's part of why Calipari's pursuing so hard. But either way, we've said for a while that if he's going to continue to go out to Virginia, which he's done since September, since the fall, I mean, half a year ago, basically 6 months ago or so, and continues to go out. And now I've said all along, Calipari believes he's getting a visit. I had the one source, again, I've talked about since before all of this got hot again for Arkansas with Ament. Said it way back that you remember that we talked about it in real time. That look ahead. Let's see what game dates are up in conference play. I thought Alabama might be the one that made the most sense. What makes the most sense is what's the right timing for everybody. And so let's go through some of the reasons. Could Arkansas, that's what I teased with, is Arkansas in the lead now? By the way, I'm Kevin McPherson here at HogvilleNET YouTube Live. We appreciate your patronage. Please hit subscribe, like, and share if you haven't already. But why might Arkansas be in the lead? Well, they're getting a last visit. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but for some people, they think getting a last visit means something. And maybe it does. Maybe maybe getting the last visit in the Final Five is everything. I don't know that it is, but that's one thing you could look at and say, well, maybe there's something there. Arkansas's really got the momentum now. They're finally getting him in, and no one else gets another shot at him. So his last impression could end up being his best impression. Who knows? Obviously, the NIL is going to be the biggest factor. But if let's say that 2 or 3 teams are really close in their NIL, there's not much of a difference. It'll be other things. I think the other thing that could be suggestive, and again, the last visit, there's plenty of cases where you can point to. I mean, both Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff Jr. visited UConn after Arkansas. So put that in your pipe and smoke it when we ponder it as a last visit. Anything, but maybe it does. That's where I'm going with it. And I kind of gave a reason why. Maybe if you have the best impression and it's the last thing he got to see and do before he made a decision, along with a really strong NIL purse, then there it is. Maybe that just helps push you over the finish line. The other thing, it's John Calipari. This guy has had more success not only landing 5-star, one-and-done projected guys ever since that became a thing. It didn't just become a thing in a vacuum. He made it a thing. It's him. He's the godfather in recruiting. And it's not just that he's got success doing that. You have to look beyond that. You have to look to the NBA and see what all his players have done. How many max contracts, how many all-star appearances, how many guys are heading for the Hall of Fame. All of those things. He's got a better track record than any coach in the modern era of coaching in terms of what he did with the high-level guys he brought in and then what became of them later. So he's got a selling point to say this is not by accident. It's not a coincidence. We get things started the right way here. He's had a taste as a head coach in the NBA as part of his success coming back to college and all that he's done. So no one can sell that. No other school here, even Duke, with its pedigree, and John Shire has picked up where Coach K left off, Mike Krzyzewski, with top-level guys, sending guys in the first round, in the lottery. He's got, obviously, Cooper Flagg. I mean, they got plenty to sell over there, too. But as far as if you really look at the long-term success, the guys that played for Cal at Kentucky, it's even better than some of these guys that leave Duke under K. And we'll see, it's still too early to say with Shire what his guys will eventually do that move on to the NBA. But for the meantime, Calipari's got everybody beat. Everybody. There's no one in this race. Not Rick Barnes in Tennessee, not Mark Pope in Kentucky, nobody. Louisville. No one has his track record. So he's got that going for him. I think the other thing is, we've seen a process with Calipari. Every player that he's brought into Arkansas so far that's become a Razorback has visited first. You can say, well, that makes sense. Yeah, it does. In most cases with these 5-star guys, it does. But it tells you also that as much as NIL plays into it, there is a romance and there is a courtship and there is a process that Calipari goes through. And so this is the natural order of that process. Throwing NIL money at this guy was never going to work at this player unless you got him on campus. And Calipari wouldn't have it any other way. That's what he expects. And so there is a dance going on here. But I think it's good. I think it's a good thing. Nothing is out of order. Nothing is misplaced. So you keep an eye on things like that. I'm building a case for Arkansas, and maybe there's a case that Arkansas is in the lead here. I go way back. Rob Cassidy, back in, I don't know, months ago, formerly with Rivals, national recruiting analyst. I'm not sure what he's doing now, but he'd written an article that he thought this would come down to Duke and Arkansas and Louisville kind of looking on the outside looking in. Who knows what the order truly is right now? It could be Louisville's in the lead. It could be that Duke's in the league. Those are the two schools you hear the most when you hear the chatter. But Calipari's tuned all that out. If he believed that, he wouldn't bring this kid in. That's another reason to think if Calipari's going this far with it, maybe he thinks that's not true. I don't think he wants to be part of any window dressing or used in any kind of way to drive up NIL, even though it's obvious NIL probably going to be the last thing, and it is going to potentially be a highest bidder thing. All these schools at the top have something to sell. They don't have everything to sell that Calipari does, and that's the point. All right, at the end of the day, the fact is Arkansas's NIL, this is another reason why Arkansas could be in the lead, might be leading for Nate Ament, is that Arkansas is not bashful with its NIL. It has valuation set on each player that it goes after, a range, and there may be more wiggle room with some than others. There may be a lot more wiggle room with some than others. And this tells me this late in the stage with everything that's going on with this level of player is that Calipari's all in. All the chips are at the middle of the table. And you know that because he's bringing the kid in. And he's not about optics. This doesn't help his brand unless he's thinking he's going to get the player. And so that may be just enough to think that Arkansas might be in the lead, that Calipari's gone this far, this late into it, and getting him here. I'm not suggesting that Calipari definitely already knows he's getting this player to come to Arkansas to commit, but I think he thinks he can and maybe thinks he's got a great shot at it and maybe better than 50-50. That's speculation on my part, but I pay attention to what Calipari does. Will Arkansas lose first round of the NIT? Well, we'll see if they get an NIT invite. Let's see if they get an NCAA tournament invite. Arkansas's got more than one path to finish up this season. I'll talk a little bit about that at the end of this. Let's get through Nate Ament. So let's go back. I was in Texas, Bryan, Texas, back in May. We're getting close to a year on that, right? We're not too far away, a couple of months out. So 10 months ago, I was down there for the first session of the Adidas Circuit session play. And Calipari and one of the Arkansas staffers, Bruiser Flint, they were both there. It was a Friday when it opened up. That session opened for the whole weekend. And Calipari was on hand to watch Nate Ament. I was watching Nate Ament and his team loaded Virginia squad. Really good point guard on that team, Magwood. But Ament was the star, not only in that game, but really, throughout. He and Darren Peterson, arguably the two best players in the country, playing on the Adidas circuit. We know AJ DeBonsa, the Boozer twins over at Nike, but honestly, Darren Peterson right now is projected the shooting guard that's going to Kansas. He's projected maybe as the number one overall pick in that 2026 draft I just mentioned. Nate Ament in the conversations, he'll be a top 3 or 5 pick in line with his top 3 or 5 ranking as a high school prospect. But both of those guys were putting on, and Calipari was still recruiting both at the time. But Ament, when I interviewed him after that first game, had talked about, I've been talking with this coaching staff, and I asked him, I said, is that since they just took this Arkansas job 2 or 3 weeks ago? Yes, they're on my radar. I'm on their radar. So he confirmed that since Calipari had made the switch, that Arkansas had already started talking to him and recruiting him. And Calipari watched him play throughout when he was there for the part of that weekend while he was there for that event. He didn't miss Nate Ament, nor did I. But what stands out at 6'9", I've made comparisons before to Michael Porter Jr. That's the one I like. People are asking me, would you compare him to Kevin Durant? I mean, he's probably positionally, lengthwise, build-wise, skill-wise, at the same stage, comparable. That would be a good comparison too. I think the only thing is I thought Durant, even though he was at his size, with that just lean, thin body, still was a wiry, stronger kind of guy than a lot of people gave him credit for, and probably did a better job than most thought he ever did. If you go back and watch him when he was young, this dude would take on contact and finish. He wasn't bashful about it. So he could get to the rim anytime he wanted to, on top of all that skill. I don't quite have Nate Ament in the same category athletically and strength wise relative to a guy who's thin, but still, we're talking about Kevin Durant making comparisons. Michael Porter Jr. again is the one I've used the most, but Kevin Durant's not a stretch. But he's that kind of guy. At 6'9", he sees everything. He's a smart player, a really good passer. But what makes him exceptional is his ability to shoot from three at a consistently high percentage, no matter what the platform is. Spring and summer, grassroots against the elite competition every time out. Whether it's on the high school level, some of these all-star events and camps, some of the Team USA stuff. I mean, Nate Ament is an elite shooter at 6'9", has all the soft skills, got good handles, nice. He can get you in the mid post back and post up a little turnaround shot. He can create again off the bounce mid range shots. And the deeper he gets into the paint is where I've seen physicality, where there might be obviously some things that he's got to improve on. Not because he can finish above the rim. He's got good athleticism, great length, all that. It's not about his athleticism. It's about the strength and playing through that contact. But this is the kind of guy, even in 1 year as a one and done, can make a huge difference in the quality of your team. And Arkansas has already got a top 5 rated high school recruiting class for 2025 in that backcourt. This guy's a jumbo wing. He can play the three. I think in college you'll see him as a small ball 4, a 3-4 combo. Not the same kind of player as Nate Ament, because Nate Ament's huge and powerful and explosive and bull in a china shop. The skill sets are completely different. The body types are completely different. But for all intents and purposes, Thero is translates as a 3 at the next level, but he's more of a 4. Arkansas is using that way. So Nate Ament could be used as a 3-4 combo on the college level, and you'll see him kind of as your 4 in small ball lineups. You may see a lot of that. But the point is, this guy's very versatile, and he makes everyone around him better. It's not just the shooting, which we've seen this year. Arkansas needs a guy like that. They need a guy that can come in with that kind of percentage, always hovering around between 45 and 55% from three. So you mass that together from event to event, platform to platform. He's always seems to be hovering around a 50% mark consistently for months and months and months this last year, certainly. And so I think that'll translate, and I think he'll be a knockdown kind of guy. With everything else he does, you play him in two-man game, dribble handoff, set and picks, pops, shallow roll, hard roll. But with the balls in his hands, you can run stuff through him because he makes great passes. It's not all about him chasing shots. He really, really doesn't do that. I've seen like a couple of all-star events where he probably took more shots than he normally does, but in a more structured setup, he's looking to make the right play. And so it's just win-win with this guy from his talent standpoint. Arkansas right now, matter of fact, ranks in the 90s in KenPom in offense, ranks 16th in defense. And so, you're not throwing, this guy has the potential to, at minimum, be a competent defender, a good defender. I don't know that I would necessarily say he's got the chops to project as a plus or an elite defender, but I wouldn't rule out plus. He's so young in his development too. I wouldn't even rule out elite. But I don't see that right away. That doesn't jump out at me. But a good defender, no reason why that shouldn't be the case at minimum. But the offense, he's elite, and he can really help Arkansas become a better 3-point shooting team just by his abilities, not by having to change up your schematics to promote more of that. Any system he plays in, he's going to really thrive as a shooter. Because he sees over everything. He's his timing and his understanding of taking good shots, all of that's there. I'm going on and on about it. For those wondering, why would you put so many, we're talking maybe a $3 million price tag. Why would you be this far in it? And I'm trying to give you some reasons why. Is Arkansas in the lead now? There's nothing to say that they are. I just went through some reasons why you could make the case that could be what's going on, and we just don't know enough. Who really knows what's going on? Maybe it is Duke. Maybe it is Louisville, and he's just finishing up just to make sure and see if there's something that he hasn't considered. And then again, they're looking at that NIL price tag. At the end of the day, this might be a highest bidder thing, and Arkansas can compete with anybody there in basketball. Period. There some of these schools now. It's a matter of, do you want to? Are you okay with where this goes? Is it really going to land somewhere less than $3 million? And that's just what Immense Camp hopes happens by the end of this month, getting into that April 1st decision announcement. There's so many questions about it. South Carolina, LSU beat Arkansas. Does that mean anything? Yeah. It means Arkansas's got there's a fair reason why Arkansas's on the bubble coming into the last week of the regular season and before you get into the SEC tournament. That's what it means. We got some back and forth in here. And look, Arkansas, hosting this game against Mississippi State on Saturday, it's got some high stakes for the Razorbacks. And now you've got a high stakes recruitment going on, and you've got your visitor in. So obviously Arkansas would love to figure out a way to win that game. I've reported on here the last time I was on that I have a source that's telling me Adu Thero's done for the season, that he had a torn meniscus. I've not been able to confirm that since. That was a few days ago when we talked about that. I think it was Saturday when we came on for the post game. I did partly in-game post game for South Carolina. And look, Arkansas, by the way, speaking of the Mississippi State game, that game tips off on Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time. So that tells you that Ament's probably getting in on March the 7th. And, it could be sooner, but probably getting in on Friday, March the 7th, because he'll attend that game, and that game will, again, tips off at 11 a.m. Central Time. But Arkansas is on the bubble fighting for its NCAA tournament life. Lenardi had another update today. He's updating every day now, his bracketology. And for the second, since Sunday, Monday, now Tuesday, for the third consecutive day since Arkansas lost so badly at South Carolina, he's had Arkansas as the second team on the last four in group. They were, prior to losing at South Carolina, the third team on the last four buys. So they dropped 3 spots down to the last four in. They're still there. My thought is, going into tonight, if Arkansas wins at Vanderbilt, this is going to be one of the top 5 wins on the season. It'll be their 5th quad one win. So, it would be Arkansas's 5th quad one win. So it'd be a top 5 win. But I think it'll be good enough to potentially put Arkansas back in the last 4 buys, which then tells me if you lost at home to Mississippi State, you're probably maybe not, you got a shot at staying on the last 4 buys. You probably are going back to the last 4 in, but you're probably slotted again at 1 or 2. And again, that's also relative to what are other teams on the bubble doing. There's a chance that, again, I've said this for a while, if you need, Arkansas needed one more win going into the South Carolina game with 3 regular season games remaining, so it still holds true. They need one more win now with 2 regular season games upcoming to still be projected in on the bubble, but in going into the SEC tournament. And that's where it gets dicey. I still feel that way. You win these last 2 games of your Arkansas, you are a lock. It doesn't matter what happens in the SEC tournament. And you're probably not going to have a play-in game. Not only are you a lock, I don't see Arkansas having a play-in game. I see them having a bye. Even if they lose in the first round of the SEC tournament. Beat Vandy on the road. Mississippi State at home. Mississippi State has been locked in at 30th in net. Mississippi State has a home game against Texas. I think that's one of 3 games, a triple header tonight on SEC Network. You've got Georgia at South Carolina. That's another bubble team in Georgia. Took Arkansas's place on that last 4 buys list. They kind of switched spots after Saturday's results, with Georgia having that big 20-point road win over Texas, Arkansas having that disaster at South Carolina. So you're keeping an eye on that Georgia-South Carolina game. Again, Georgia at South Carolina. I think it's then Texas at Mississippi State, and then Arkansas at Vandy. So you're watching those bubble teams. Texas on the bad part of the bubble right now, part of the last 4, the first 4 out. I think the last team on that list. So Texas is playing for a lot. But Arkansas, I think, again, if you win this game over Vandy, I think if you're only going to win one, this one or Mississippi State to finish out the regular season, if it plays out that way and you don't get 2 to lock it up, I think the better win is Vandy. It's a road game. Yeah, Mississippi State's a little higher in net, but Mississippi State needs to beat Texas tonight. There's probably not going to be much of a bump if any, on the net. So 30th. And then if Arkansas beats Mississippi State on Saturday, Mississippi State will probably slide, even if it's a little bit off that 30 line. And now it's no longer a quad 1 win, it's a quad 2. So there's certain value. Vanderbilt tonight on the road is certain to be a quad 1. Vanderbilt's 37th in net. If Arkansas wins tonight and tomorrow, Vandy can somehow maintain a top 40 in net. It's the 37th now. There's no official line. There's no official set in stone system outside of what the basic net rankings are. But I've been saying for a while, some quad 1 wins are better than others. And I think a win over a top 10 net team at home is better than other quad 1 wins at home. I think a quad 1 win at a neutral site against a top 25 team is better than quad 1 wins on neutral sites against teams ranked outside the 25, up to 50. And I think on the road where it's top 75, if you beat a team top 40 on the road in net, it's a little bit more than a quad 1 road win over a team ranked outside the top 40, but no worse than 75th. I know that's a little confusing, but I've been saying all along, Arkansas's road wins over Kentucky and the neutral site win over Michigan, which is still top 25 in net, those mean a little bit more than maybe some other quad 1 wins for other teams. When you're just totaling the quad wins, let's say you've got 5 quad 1 wins and another team does, and you're basically identical there. The value of some of yours might be a little better because of how highly some of those teams you beat were ranked relative to the other team. So you get an edge there. And so that's the point of bringing that up. So even if Mississippi State stays at 30 and you get that at home as a quad 1 win, the Vanderbilt quad 1 win, if you got that, it's going to be even better. So if you had to pick and you're only going to win one more and you got to pick which one now, I'll take Vandy. I think it gives Arkansas a better chance, because I want to go back and say this: win 2 more, whether that's these next 2 or some combination of these 2, one of these 2, and your first round SEC tournament game on Wednesday, March 12th. Any way you win your next 2, if you can get that many, you're a lock. You're in. And you're not on. I don't think you're even a play-in anymore. I think you're getting a bye. But win only 1, you hope it's Vanderbilt. And if you lose to Mississippi State and then you lose in the first round of the SEC tournament, you're in a dicey situation, but you got the best win you could get, a true road win over a top 40 net team. Even if Vanderbilt slips just outside the top 40, it's still better than that home win over Mississippi State, even if that sticks as a quad 1. And I think that would improve your chances of surviving. You just hope some of the other bubble teams have also had similar results where they maybe only won one of their last 3, or if they didn't win more than that, they were in such a poor conference that their first round conference win was over a quad 3, which there'll be examples of that, and it didn't give them any boost there. So there's still a way, if you win only one more in your next 3, because I'm counting now the first game of the SEC tournament, that Arkansas is okay. But it's it's dicey at best, and it might not be okay. Win 2 of your next 3, I'm again counting the SEC tournament first round game for Arkansas, you are a lock. Vandy's going to pose a lot of problems. We'll just do a quick preview. We're almost 30 minutes in. I've given reasons why I think Arkansas, not saying I think they're in the lead for Nate Ament, but reasons they could be. Reasons they could be in the lead for Nate Ament. Why not? It's NIL, it's Cal, it's getting the last visit, it's getting him on a visit, period. It's the fact that he puts you on his Final 5 list. You had to figure this was coming. He'd visited the other places. All right? So all the talk that it's Louisville or Duke may be true. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not going against that. I'm saying here are reasons why it just might be Arkansas. I like Arkansas's chances better than I do Kentucky and Texas. Or excuse me, Tennessee. Certainly more than Texas. He visited Texas, but the Longhorns didn't make his Final 5. But Tennessee's in that Final 5. I don't know why I like Arkansas's chances better than those 2. I just do. In theory, it could be one of those schools he picks. So we'll see what it really ends up being. But I think, again, Arkansas very well may be in the lead. All right, quick preview. Vanderbilt is another elite offense. Top 15 in KenPom officially. I think actually top 10. Not as good. I think they're top 15. I'm not sure on the offense. I know it's elite. If it's not top 10, it's top 15. Defensively, I think they're ranked in the 60s in KenPom defensively. So some of their metrics, some of the things you look at remind me a little bit of Kentucky, because they have multiple combinations of frontline guys and backcourt players that can shoot the three. I think the difference between Arkansas and Kentucky, or excuse me, Vanderbilt and Kentucky when Arkansas played them on their home courts is Kentucky was without its lead guard, which we've seen Kentucky struggle. They've won a lot of big games, but they've struggled a lot without their lead guard, Butler. And Hogard, who had a career at Michigan State, Hogard, their lead guard, a veteran guy, fifth-year guy, I don't think he's hurt. I think he's there. And I think that is maybe the difference of what Arkansas is up against, because they've got a lot of interchangeable three-point shooters front line and backcourt. They've got depth. I think they're a little tougher at some positions than Kentucky was. But again, they got their point guard as well. And if I'm comparing their point guard to what DJ Wagner's been for Arkansas, even though DJ Wagner's been an important part of what Arkansas has done, he's also been on a high turnover clip of late. And that's a bad trend with your lead guard going up against one that seems to push all the right buttons most of the time. Doesn't mean he's not due for a bad game. Doesn't mean that he won't be more of a middle non-factor than he will be a plus tonight. You just never know how it'll work out. But relative to what Vanderbilt's done and through its lead guard, I understand why this team's favored by anywhere from 6.5 to 7.5 points. But look, Arkansas was a bigger underdog going on the road against Kentucky, an underdog on the road at Texas. Those were back-to-back road wins. Arkansas hasn't won on the road since. Close losses then to Texas A&M, then to Auburn. Then you come back and you've started this two-game road swing with a 19-point loss at South Carolina, and that was your worst loss of the season. Even though you lost by 24 points, open SEC play back up in early January at Tennessee, at South Carolina, that was even worse. You were down by 35 with about 5 minutes left, and it's the worst team in the SEC. All the teams in this league are actually good despite their records, because somebody's got to lose these games. Where the top feeders are really good, the bottom feeders are good. But again, Arkansas is kind of trending wrong, and they're down on their numbers. Duke Thero's out again. I'm told torn meniscus by one source, probably not coming back. Period this year, but hopefully there's some better. Hopefully that's wrong. I hope that there's something that there's some element of that that's not accurate. I don't think so, but anyway. But Arkansas is down to 7 players, and again, you just don't. You want to give yourself a chance to win. Being that this game close at the end, you need Trevor Brazile to have the kind of game he did against Texas, not the kind of game that he and everybody had against South Carolina. At least Jonas Aidoo in a debacle gave you a double-double. I mean, I guess that's a positive. 10 points, 10 rebounds. He missed a dunk or two, a couple of layups. He took some weird angles on some. I mean, the whole team was garbage against the Gamecocks. Period. The whole team. But maybe Jonas Aidoo he gave Arkansas production in the home win over Missouri. He and Brazile gave Arkansas both good production in the home win over Texas that went to overtime. And then Jonas Aidoo gets a double-double last time out. Maybe he steps up tonight. Big Z, it'd be great to have him back to the form he was at home in those back-to-back games against Missouri and Texas when he combined for 38 points. He had another poor outing on the road. He drew a blank in the previous road game at Auburn. So you need him to show up. DJ Wagner needs to take care of the basketball. Nelly Davis needs to catch his spark again. I mean, Arkansas is down to 7 guys. I can go through every name. Carter Knox, he's been solid, coming down the stretch. Same with Billy Richmond. They need all hands on deck because there are not many hands left. So they all have to pretty much give you something and give you more than just a tiny little bit. And they can't be a negative factor helping the other team. Arkansas has been a bundle of self-inflicted wounds this season. And that's why I say the team's identity, it should be that they're 16th ranked in KenPom in defensive efficiency. But the truth is, their identity is that they play 2 opponents every time they show up. The team on the other bench at the other end of the court and themselves. They got to stop that, especially on the road. They found winning formulas at Kentucky, at Texas. They were competitive against Auburn and A&M before that on the road. And then they were no compete against South Carolina. Against South Carolina on the road. So the trend is not good, but maybe it's a one-off. Maybe it's an outlier. Maybe it's what Calipari said. They laid it. It's a dud, burn the tape, move on. It's a quick turnaround going Saturday to Tuesday on the road. I think if there's any silver lining, you played at South Carolina at noon, and this one doesn't start until 9. So you probably got home at a decent hour on Saturday, even though you do have the travel. but you probably got home earlier than you would have if you'd hosted a night game at Bud Walton Arena. Again, there's other factors. You're traveling; it's not the same. But rest wise, I don't know that it was crippling. Especially you're getting even a late tip tonight, 9 o'clock again. I don't know if that factors in to help Arkansas or not. But you're down to 7 bodies, so every hour you get to rest legs or whatever you need to do to heal up or whatever it is helps. And so, yeah, fast turnaround. You'd prefer to play a Wednesday game, but this is where the schedule is for Arkansas at this juncture. I think Vanderbilt should be favored. I think Arkansas, if it can be competitive and stay in this game, like I've said so many times, give itself a chance coming down to the last 4 or 5 minutes. And when you get into that final mandatory timeout, the under 4 minute, Arkansas then just has to make the better decisions and execute and find a way to win. This team's broken through and done that in several games. It's not like the proof of concept's not out there. It's not like this team's not had success playing on the road and away from home this season. They have. They just still don't have enough wins. That's the bottom line. When you start 0-5 in league play. Yeah, there's just people arguing in here. They're not really commenting on the content, which is fine by me. Do it wherever you can. All right. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm going to sign off now. Again, I'm still figuring out. I'll put a tweet out later exactly when I'm going to jump in tonight. I'm deciding, do I really just want to do a post game? Do I want to come in, fourth quarter, so 8 to 10 minutes left to go in regulation, or do I just want to do it at halftime and get it going? I think part of that also will be where if Arkansas is blown out, if this turns into South Carolina early, I'm probably just going to jump in whenever and get it over with and talk about what's left and what they must do moving forward. So we'll see how that plays out, but I will put a tweet out at some point talking about when I'll jump in. Thanks for the update, Kevin. Love watching HogvilleNET. Well, thank you. I appreciate your comment. But again, thank you for joining me here. Subscribe, like, and share if you haven't. I'm Kevin McPherson. It's HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Is Arkansas now in the lead for Nate Ament? They're getting a visit. They're in the lead for the last visit. That's going to happen. Again, he'd have to change his list or decide on, and that's happened before, decide he wants to visit somewhere else at the last minute. If there's some, billionaire that decides he's going to make his program viable in this stakes, I guess that could happen. Hey, we're going to throw this kind of NIL around, and now you've got another team to contend with. But it looks obvious to me with the other 4 finalists he's already visited that Arkansas is getting the last visit. Is that a harbinger for anything positive? Maybe, maybe not. I grant you that. But it's John Calipari, checks the box of been there, done that in recruiting and getting guys at the next level, and the success they have at the next level better than any coach out there, any coach that's retired now, any coach that's active, any coach that's coming down the pike. He's probably going to win that belt and hold on to his title belt and keep on. So he's got that ahead of everybody else. And now he's getting him on campus face to face to show him everything. And Arkansas can compete with anybody in NIL. There's no doubt about that. This is not a thing with, you hope Calipari and his track record's the difference because we might not be able to pay as much as somebody else in NIL. No, Arkansas's got that box checked as well, as long as it wants to check that box. Remember, I've said it over and over. There is no player, not a single player, that Calipari, whatever his valuation range is, that he's going to greatly exceed that to win a recruiting battle for anybody. He won't do that either. He's not in this for window dressing and to be on somebody's finals list and to say, hey, we got a visit. He's not that guy, but he's also not going to, overshoot the moon for this. Again, there'll be a valuation range and there may be some wiggle room on that, but it's not going to be massive. They're going to keep it real with what they think they need to do. But at the same time, I think the proceeds in Arkansas's NIL are even greater than what we thought they were, because I think there's added incentive for guys like John Tyson, some of the other boosters, to help Calipari get what he thinks he needs to advance this toward a national championship for Arkansas. All right, we're almost 40 minutes in. I actually am signing off. I love teasing the sign off, and then I just don't do it. I don't know why. I just got to repeat everything, but I do. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you later tonight. Arkansas Vanderbilt, so much on the line. Until then, thanks for being here. Take care. We'll see you then.